Our top story of the week. Daniel Bryan took full advantage of a prime opportunity when he found himself locked in a cage with the man that waged an assault on Bryan for weeks on end. That man, Bray Wyatt, was the same who Bryan claimed allegiance to just 2 weeks prior. In Bray Wyatt's eyes, he was a card-carrying member of the Wyatt family, but Bryan had other plans. Instead of volunteering to fall to the hand of Sister Abigail, Bryan demolished Bray and ended the night reveling in a raucous ovation from the crowd.
You know, I first, before we get into anything, I want to apologize to not only the PWTR universe, but also the WWE universe, because a few episodes back, I said that Daniel Bryan was at the top of my Fave 5, and now, unfortunately, he's gotten a serious concussion. So, my apologies to everybody. I'm thinking of completely discontinuing my Fave 5. Apologies to everybody who enjoyed the Fave 5 service, but unfortunately, these things do happen. Regarding the storyline and the payoff, I've got to say Daniel Bryan is the man, and I think he's finally becoming confident with himself, because if you notice, even when he was doing those yes chants, he like even slowed down a bit, and then he started getting faster and faster and faster in the drop kicks. Everything was perfect about that segment, so I'm very happy. It was almost like the coming of age type of story, and it's very surprising because the storyline, for all intents and purposes, was very short. He was only in the Wyatt family for about 2 weeks, and he left on the second week. Now, as far as what was going on behind the stage, this, in my opinion, I don't believe it was going to be long-term. I don't think this was going to go on for another year. But I also don't believe that they wanted it to end this early. I've never seen a whatever it was, whether it was a heel turn, which it probably wasn't, a tweener turn, whatever it had to have gone on longer than 2 weeks. This just seemed a little bit rushed, and maybe it was because of the mainstream recognition at that, I believe it was the Michigan State game with the whole yes chants. You know, maybe they got worried. You know how they love their mainstream recognition, so they just said, you know what, this is silly, let's just end it. And I actually agree. I thought that this storyline was a bit silly, him allowing himself to be beaten up, even if he wants to get closer to Bray Wyatt to beat him up. Just the reason why he wants to beat him up is because he got beat up himself. So just him allowing him to get, you know, the train ran over him, I thought that was a bit silly. I don't expect Daniel Bryan to become more aggressive. It's not that I don't want that to happen. I would love for that to happen, but I don't expect his character to do a complete radical overhaul, and it probably doesn't have to, because if it's not broke, you don't fix it. This isn't to say I want to see him smiling and hugging children. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but the fans have proven right now that this is what they want. This is the Daniel Bryan they loved and wanted to see, and I love the touch that they had with him shedding the clothes that the Wyatt family gave him. That was a very nice touch. And also, one thing to be reminded, it was probably silly, it's probably a coincidence, but I like the fact that Kane was the one that locked the cage. He was the one that put the lock on the cage. Maybe a little nod to their history as part of Team Hell now.
As for me, I am happy that Daniel Bryan has found his niche with that awesome reaction he got from the crowd. But I have to wonder, this storyline was, for all intents and purposes, a fail, though, because it ended way too early, and I just...
What?
It ended way too early. Like, there's so many other ways they could have went with this than what they went for. I'm glad my prediction for the Royal Rumble was wrong, because, you know, I'm a man, I can admit I was wrong in that department, but it would have been something other than just a 2-week... Well, that
We're
was
happy
something,
too, but that's not because of... Not for your benefit. We're just happy because that was really...
Well, I didn't want it to happen either. That was my prediction. That's all I was saying with it. But what I'm saying, though, is it was a fail, though, because it got the crowd, it got the reaction, but he always had that reaction to begin with, so whatever. I have to ask, though, what's going to happen with the Wyatt family at this point? Because, okay, they just got their ass beat by Daniel Bryan. Where are they going to go now? That kind of ruins one of my favorite characters in the show, so I guess I sacrificed that for Daniel Bryan, which I guess I'm okay with because I'm a huge Daniel Bryan guy. I'm just disconnected from this now because I thought we were going to get something special with this storyline, and it just didn't turn out to be like that. And as for Daniel Bryan getting a concussion, I am shocked by that. I mean, why is it the good wrestlers are getting concussions these days? I mean, Jesus, they should know how to bump and protect themselves, but you also have to blame the guys in the ring. They're opposite, I guess, too. I don't know. I just wish no one would get concussions, but why did it have to be the good ones? I did like the touch with Kane, though, but I wish they would... I don't understand this authority thing anymore. I'm kind of like... okay, is he a heel, tweener? I don't care anymore. Just get the authority off my screen. And this is going to come up later, but I feel like they're putting more attention into the wrong guy with Daniel Bryan, too. There's someone else that I'm more worried about at this point. But I'm glad Daniel Bryan's got his rub, and I guess we'll see where Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan go from here.
So, Daniel Bryan, on top of that cage, all the fans doing the yes chant, that was like a sight to see. That was amazing for me. And I will agree with Justin a little bit where, not say this wasn't a failure, but they kind of, for me, they did it too early. I don't know what their problem by. I don't know why they did it. Maybe it was ratings. I don't think it was, but if it was, fair enough, I guess. But it's too early for me. Like, I thought this was building up to something, and the ending, what they did was great. Like, that was amazing to see. But this too early for me. I was thinking maybe like a pay-per-view or something. But either way, just the whole scenario in general was amazing. Sister Abigail, Daniel Bryan just says no, and then he's like in the corner, and then Bray Wyatt, like, he's like, screw it, goes to that splash in the corner, and then Bryan just moves, and then he just like destroys him. So it was amazing, and just all those yes chants, as David said, how he slowed them down, sped them up, like everything about the scenario. And again, just on top of the cage, saying the yes, it just is a thing I'll remember, I'll think back on, and like in this decade or this generation, or whatever you want to call it, this era, I think that's the word. I'll look back and be like, that's one of those moments. So good stuff. And I guess the concussion thing, I don't know how bad it is. Hopefully it's not really bad. Hopefully it's not like terrible. Hopefully he can come back before the Royal Rumble, hopefully, or at the Royal Rumble. Now he's done this, though. Now they've actually got to this point. I guess he doesn't have to like wrestle next week. Now he's already like destroyed Bray Wyatt. He doesn't have to wrestle next week. He can like just be on the mic or something. That may weaken him, but I think now they've actually pulled the trigger on this. He can get away with it for like 2 weeks or something. So hopefully the concussion isn't that bad, and he'll be able to continue on at the Royal Rumble.
I don't think it can be overstated how amazing this moment was. We're in January right now, and I can guarantee you that this will be nominated for Markout Moment of the Year in December, because I went friggin' nuts. I was literally marking out, jumping up and down, yelling at my computer, my TV. But yeah, anyway, I'm glad that this actually worked out this way. Even though I knew exactly where it was going to lead, sitting through Daniel Bryan being part of the Wyatt family, it was kind of tough. But we never would have gotten that great moment with him turning on Bray Wyatt had he not aligned himself with Bray Wyatt in the first place. And I love the character development here, and it was a great moment that WWE set up for him. My old saying is criticize when necessary, but give credit where credit is due, and they set him up very nicely for this moment. And I'll pick up off of something that Brandon said. You'll look back at this moment and see it as one of those moments like that define this generation. I honestly consider this a career-defining moment for Daniel Bryan. Probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest moment of his career, even over his WWE Championship win at SummerSlam. Because as great as that moment was, it wasn't really his moment. As much as we may want to ignore what happened after he won the title, the fact is, in totality, that moment was Daniel Bryan winning the championship, and then the championship being taken away from him due to Money in the Bank being cashed in. So the difference from that and now, this moment was all his. When the screen faded to black, that was the guy who was sitting atop the cage, and he was in full command of the crowd. And it was just so amazing, and the atmosphere was friggin' electric, and it was great to see. I couldn't imagine how it would have been to actually be there, but just watching from home, it was really awesome. And it put into perspective just how into Daniel Bryan the fans are, and how awesome he could possibly be with the right creative backing. And I think he got that right here. And something that I'll say, when you all are talking about how short this angle is and how you thought it would build up to a kind of bigger moment or something like that, I think the situation that we're in right now, you can't see the forest through the trees, because on Monday Night Raw, that was the big moment. It didn't have to last any longer than it did, because what would have been the alternative? Like, would we really have sat through Daniel Bryan getting his ass kicked by Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family? And even if WWE didn't go with this angle, what would have been the alternative there? If Daniel Bryan was supposed to be in a feud with the Wyatt family, and we've seen time and time again that they have this dude outnumbered. Every single instance that he was in the ring with them, they pretty much kicked his ass. So I think he was displaying some intelligence here where he infiltrated the Wyatt family, and when the moment was right, he capitalized off of that moment. You had Harper and Rowan, they were outside of the ring, and then you had Bray Wyatt, Daniel Bryan, in a cage, locked in together. Like, I mean, that was the most perfect moment for him to strike, whether it was 2 weeks from the point where he joined the Wyatt family or if it was 2 months.
I wouldn't say that it was it just seemed a little bit weird for me. 2 weeks, if we don't know exactly Daniel Bryan's motives just yet, although your theory is probably the most logical one, I just think that it was pretty quick. They probably wanted to go for this a little bit longer, but I don't care. We got a pretty good moment. A really good moment, actually.
Yeah, I don't want to say that I kind of like called it from the beginning, but I kind of
I'll concede to that. I'll let you win this one.
All right. Speaking of a mark-out moment, though, with Daniel Bryan on the cage, I also thought it was kind of a good mark-out moment for me personally, seeing the Usos in the main event of Raw. I thought that was pretty good, and actually added to the Daniel Bryan thing. Like, okay, I got 2 good things here, but just the storyline as a whole I felt was too quick. I mean, I see your point, Jay, but for me it's just a little too quick, in execution-wise. But I understand why they did it and stuff, but yeah.
I honestly think it was right on the money, and you all know I freaking love the Usos. I've become such a huge fan of theirs in 2013, and I'm glad to see it's continuing on in 2014. But that's how I knew something was up. Like, I was like, I like the Usos, but the fact that they're in the main event, some shit is going to pop off here. And yeah, it definitely did pop off.
But I mean, the storyline did start on Raw and ended on Raw 2 weeks later. Like, I'm not saying it's bad that they did this as early, because again, the moment was amazing. It's just 2 weeks and Raw and ends on Raw. It seemed, as David said, it seemed weird to me. But either way, we got a good ending. So
I actually like that, though. I would like to see a lot more TV feuds. We don't get a lot of those. The last time they really had a TV feud, I could be wrong, but the last one I remember was CM Punk and John Cena in 2011. This was before the shoot. This was the John Cena versus the New Nexus with Punk, McGillicuddy, and those other jobbers.
That's Curtis Axel and Husky Harris.
Yeah, I'd like to see a few more TV feuds. They don't have to do a bunch of them. That would kind of negate the purpose of pay-per-views, obviously. But, like maybe a couple every year, maybe every other year. Like, you could do like for stuff that you don't think that would main event a pay-per-view, like let's say CM Punk versus, I don't know, I'm just pulling one out of my rear end. I don't know, CM Punk and Kofi Kingston. You don't have to, that's not something, that's a little bit weird. That's not something you would do on a pay-per-view, but maybe something that you would do on a Raw,
And we actually got a lot of great feedback for Raw on Twitter. Let me go ahead and read off some of this stuff. The Alex Man, great stuff. Psycho Walker, he says he loved it. Emac0307, off the chain. When was the last time we had a bad Raw? Marquise9311, he says, great ending. Glad Bryan and the Wyatt family didn't last long. The road to WrestleMania 30 just got interesting for Bryan. Ironhide says, now that's a real quote-unquote big ending. So we see all of this excitement.
Wait a minute. He's going on to Twitter when the Decepticons are out here destroying the world? Come on, man. No wonder they killed you in the last movie.
I'm guessing that was a Transformers reference that flew right over my head. But, so we're seeing a lot of excitement and euphoria expressed by PWTR listeners, and the unfortunate thing about that is that with this moment from Daniel Bryan, what Brandon and I described as career or generation-defining moment, he may not have the chance to pick up off of that momentum from this moment because it's being reported, and there are some credible wrestling news sites, or at least one credible one that I visit very frequently, that they say that WWE has confirmed to them that Daniel Bryan has suffered from a concussion.
That really sucks. It seems like this happens all the time to guys. We've seen this happen to Dolph Ziggler. We've seen injuries happen to...
He's literally going through this right now.
Yeah, this really sucks. And what would really suck is for him not to remember what happened during that moment. He basically had his Austin bleeding out to Bret Hart at WrestleMania, and he doesn't even remember it. So, That's really going to suck. I hope that this isn't too serious. Maybe he'll be able to come back. Who knows? We might be being worked. This is the first time that I can recall that they actually went to the dirt sheets and said, hey, yeah, this is actually true. So maybe we're being worked and Daniel Bryan will come in the Royal Rumble. Maybe this was just a trick Bray Wyatt so he wouldn't toss him out and he wins. Well, the likelihood of Daniel Bryan winning a Royal Rumble, okay, that's a little bit silly. But you never know. One thing I will say is that as far as the concussions, it seems like this has been happening over and over again. These guys have been getting concussions a lot. It's just that the reason why they're so publicized these recent years is because they actually care about the wrestler and they don't want them to go and kill their children and their wife. So now, even if it's a silly little slight concussion, they just take them out. Back in the days, Shawn actually talked about how he said he had over a dozen concussions, and a lot of people would have never have known that. But concussions back then wasn't a big deal. But this happens quite a bit. It's professional wrestling. It's a contact sport. But I will say, as far as the Usos, at the moment I saw them do the back body drop to Daniel Bryan, I was like, oh Christ, that does not look good. I kind of figured this was going to happen to him, and it really sucks. But, the Usos, the one thing about the pattern of these concussions I've noticed, especially with Ryback and the Dolph Ziggler match and Superstars, the people that are giving out these concussions are not the most experienced type of people. And that's the one thing that I don't like. They have a lot of guys out there who are not necessarily ready. I'm not saying the Usos are trash or anything, but they have a lot of inexperienced guys, and we see a pattern where they're injuring a lot of people. They just get rushed from FCW or NXT straight up to the main roster, and they don't really know what they're doing. This has happened a lot of times before in the past, but I'm just pointing out, there's a little bit of a pattern here. I'm not a hater of the Usos.
I honestly think that's unfair, though, because we've seen situations where people like Jack Swagger, you can say what you want about him as a talent, but you can't say that he's untrained, because he was a legit, amateur wrestler before coming to WWE, and he's given someone a concussion before. Honestly, those are just those situations where something happens, and of course you don't want it to happen, but sometimes you don't have control to make it not happen, if that makes sense.
I want to know. You just have to be a pro. You don't go out there and actually hurt the guy, Like sometimes, especially Punk, that Shining Wizard's a little bit unnecessary, man. He looks like he really knocked somebody out.
Oh, come on. That move looked amazing. You can't take that from him.
Though. No, I'm not saying take it away. It's just some of the moves are a bit unnecessary. The way you don't go out to actually hurt the guy. You got to make it look real, Like somebody did a movie. I forgot who it was, and they were actually punching him. He's like, dude, you don't have to really hit me. They're gonna edit it. Yeah,
but you want that effect. Like when people apparently Sheamus hits hard. Like if I'm in the ring and I'm actually getting hit, I'd prefer that than it to be fake, because at least I know that I'm going through the punishment, and at least it sells more for me anyway.
You say
it honestly sells more, so I don't want anyone to get hurt. But if they're Punk's like, I'm gonna hit you with the Shining Wizard, you wanna kind of take a knee to the face? Okay, I'll give you that. If they say yes, go for it.
Yeah, there's a difference between agreeing to that and then actually just completely ramming your knee with knee pads. Obviously. Yeah, sometimes, I'm not saying he does it all the time, but sometimes it's a little bit unnecessary. I don't want these guys to really get hurt. I'm not a sadist. I don't watch CZW.
All right. I'm not going to blame the Usos here, but who else am I going to blame but John Cena? I want to know what voodoo person he went to make sure every time someone gets a little bit of a pop.
Oh, shut
What the hell?
And somebody had the nerve to send me a message on Twitter saying, lighten up on Justin. Whoever, let me check to see who sent me that message, because I want you to respond back to let me know if I should really lighten up on him after he just said some bullshit like that.
But seriously though, voodoo, it's a very deadly thing in this world. You got to watch out for voodoo.
Let me say, okay, he says, because John Cena, every time someone gets a pop, someone gets a concussion. Like Dolph Ziggler with the Money in the Bank, concussion.
So he's
Daniel Bryan,
them off
concussion.
the New Orleans Saints. They
Randy Orton 2011 when he got injured by Wade Barrett, injured. Then a month later,
wrestling.
injured.
That happens quite often.
Still,
At least
John Cena's a voodoo guy. He never loses a spot.
Adam, you said some doozies on this show, but the fact that you suggested that John Cena has put a bounty on anybody that gets close to being as over as him, that takes the cake, man.
Do you guys understand?
Forget about Shaq too. You need to be locked in a closet with that monkey family guy.
Why don't both of you put on your little tinfoil hats? After all, David, you are the one that said WWE has a conspiracy to bury anyone who gets anywhere near John Cena.
I said turn heel. He's suggesting that a literal bounty is to injure people who get over. I only said that.
Hey, he's being creative. He's being creative, damn it. Give him that.
I don't want to blame the Usos, so I thought, okay, might as well blame John Cena because that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
You are a failed experiment from Hangar 18 that needs to go back into cryogenic sleep.
What's a Hangar 8?
Brandon, what are your thoughts on this situation with Daniel Bryan?
As I said before, like he can. Hopefully it's not bad. Like hopefully he can make the Royal Rumble. If he can't, then that's going to be terrible. But I'm hoping that it's not that bad. And like again, I think he can. As long as he's on TV, as long as he's only like out for 2 weeks. Like how long do we have to Royal Rumble? Like 2-3 weeks, something like that.
The Royal Rumble is less than 2 weeks away.
It's next
Like
week.
we have the next episode of Raw, and then the Sunday after that is a Royal Rumble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I really hope that the concussion isn't bad then, because he sort of has to be at the Royal Rumble. So hopefully he just doesn't wrestle on Raw. He can, with that promo, I think he can probably go with it on the mic and stuff, or like sell it, or keep going. I don't think he has to wrestle, and just hopefully he gets better and he can go to the Royal Rumble, because that'd be a thing that we really need. So yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it isn't too bad. And I wish that we could get a chance to see Danny Bryan so he can cut a promo basically saying something along the lines that this was his plan all along, to infiltrate the Wyatt family, and he was going to strike at the most opportune moment and take Bray Wyatt down. And what surprises me is a lot of fans out there are completely oblivious as to what the hell is going on. Like, I literally called all of this from the very first time that I saw Daniel Bryan join the Wyatt family. And
so what J-Dub wants is for Daniel Bryan to come out next week and say, you know what, J-Dub was right. He knew my plan the entire time. That's basically what he wants.
No, you don't have to mention me. All you have to do is like wink or something. Like no one has to know but me. So just wink, nod, and I got you, Brian. I got you.
If they mention you though, that would help the show and stuff. So he can do what he wants.
All right, hey, go right ahead. I mean, but Brandon said that, not me, because I don't want my ego. I don't want that. So thank you for that, Brandon. Anyway. So, since I'm giving out advice to Daniel Bryan, I guess I may as well go ahead and give a word of advice to John Cena.